Ladies and gentlemen, recently I traveled to Spain, both for a mini vacation and several chess events. And while I was in Madrid, something absolutely crazy happened to me. You see, I found myself in a little bar, and there were some chess players off to the side playing some speed games. A man kept coming up to me and offering me to play against some of the locals. I declined. I was tired. But after several attempts at convincing me, I decided, you know what? When in Spain, might as well play some blitz chess against the locals. And so I sat down to play. And one of my first opponents turned out to be Grandmaster Tomás Sosa from Argentina, one of the Olympic team members of the Argentinian national team. And if that was not crazy enough, I was due to play Tomás just a couple of days later in an official over-the-board chess tournament for my unretirement. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you the footage of me playing in this little bar in Madrid against an opponent who, at the time, I had no idea until he showed up, sat down, and introduced himself as a Grandmaster, and then I will analyze the game for you. Also, Tomás has a channel of his own, and I will put it in the description. Please enjoy the footage. So we shake hands, clocks are started, or really just clock, and I play e4, he plays c5, the Sicilian defense. I play knight c3, this is what I always play. I've made a course, actually, on this, and bishop to b5. Idea is to double his pawns, so he moves the knight into the center, and we realize here the table is really unstable, just like my playing style. I castle my king, and here black has a decision to kick out the light-squared bishop, or take it. Longtime viewers of this channel will actually remember I had a game very similar to this in the Toronto chess pub, where my opponent took my bishop and played like this, so I was actually very happy to see that Tomás was playing exactly like that opponent, and I was hoping to replicate some of the ideas of that game in this game. So I play d4, he takes, now I put my queen in the center, because Tomás actually doesn't have the knight that's supposed to come out, he just traded it for the bishop, so my queen is very strong. And here, right away I'm thinking, do I put my rook on e1, do I put my rook in the center, do I develop my bishop with the tempo to attack his queen? Both of those moves look pretty good. Admittedly, I don't think I chose the right option. I think my bishop should have stayed more flexible. And even now, I should definitely put my rooks to the center before engaging in a fight. And my next move, my next move is like that meme where you're like banging on the glass to stop yourself from doing something in the past. I play a4 to challenge his queen side to kind of bait his pawn a little bit forward. And the next move is really that meme encapsulated. I do something here that's really kind of bold and aggressive. Psychologically, this game was weird because this was the guy that I was supposed to play in my first round of the tournament. Like, we hadn't played yet. So I had no idea what our game was going to be like in the tournament. And I figured, let me just be as aggressive as possible, because maybe somehow that will change his perception of me as a chess player before our game. And that's all to say that I sacrificed my knight in the center of the board. And you can kind of see him laughing and me laughing, and you know, the idea is that if he takes my knight, you know, his king is wide open. And he takes my knight, and now he plays the very smart move f6, which gives his king a runaway square to where the pawn used to be, and it attacks my bishop. And you kind of start seeing right away, I simply did not have the firepower to make the sacrifice. The sacrifice would have made a lot more sense if my rook was already on e1, because it would have been a check, and then he would have been in some trouble. But the way it happened, yeah, now I give him this check, now I put my rook in the center, but now the difference is he gets to escape, and I'm down 30 seconds. But okay, it's a blitz game, it's kind of meaningless, you know, you're trying to make memes and dreams and memories and all that good stuff. That didn't rhyme, but that's why I'm a chess YouTuber and not a poet or a rapper. And then here, you know, is where I spend the majority of my time wondering, where is my attack, and why did I do this? And I'm worried that he's going to get out his dark squared bishop and his knight, he's going to connect his rooks, and then I'm simply down a piece. So, when you are losing, you have two options: settle down and defend, or create chaos. You cannot settle down and defend when you've just given up a knight for a pawn. It is not possible. Furthermore, you probably can't do it when your opponent is an experienced Grandmaster. Again, friendly reminder, this is the first game that I had played in Spain. My tournament had not happened yet, for those of you that did not follow it. If you haven't followed it, you should follow it. It's on the YouTube channel. So we're kind of chatting, and I was like, I thought I had something. He responds. Now I'm down below a minute. I have 55 seconds with 2-second bonus time every time we make a move. He has 2 minutes, 20 seconds. So the position in the situation is horrible. And I play rook to d1, simply bringing a second rook, giving him my second bishop. It's too dangerous to take the second bishop because then I'll put my knight in the center. But yeah, the game has not worked out at all for me. The sacrifice was really dumb. I probably was a little bit like over eager. He plays a great move, just blocking my pawn and developing a piece. And he's bringing his knight next. And at this point, 40 seconds on the clock, down a knight. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna just fall over and, you know, and just die and play a terrible game and have to leave the table? Or will I continue to try to attack him? Now, the eval bar hates this. It thinks he is completely winning. And of course, I felt that during the game. But unfortunately, you cannot just pause the game and say you're winning. You actually have to win. So Tomas is thinking, like, how do I play here, right? He hesitates a little bit and he brings his knight. Not necessarily the best move, but a very reasonable one. Now, what can I possibly do? I've got all my pieces out, but what can I do? So I give him a check. Give him a check kind of to keep the game going and also to see if he's going to weaken his position. Probably he should block with the knight. He probably should not move his king. He can block with the pawn, but if he blocks with the pawn, he kind of weakens the pawn on f6. Like, if he blocks with the knight here, I think the game is over. And he does. He does block with the knight, and that's a really bad sign for me. I try to bring my knight into the center. Yeah, the engine's eval bar is basically falling off a cliff. I don't know how I'm possibly going to attack him, but again, I have to play moves. And he's also down to a minute, so, you know, maybe he'll do something ridiculous. He should probably start bringing a rook to the center of the board, trying to trade off my rooks. Like, the less pieces I have, the less chance of an attack. But my knight is headed to the right side of the board to f5, where it's a safe square and it puts pressure on him. And I have a feeling he didn't really think his position was so incredible. But he played, you know, very sensibly. He offers me a rook trade, because without rooks, I can't attack him. And I have 20 seconds now. And, you know, I'm staring down the barrel of a big loss. So I take his rook. He could probably take with the king and run away, but it's much more natural to do this. I can't take his pawn, but I can take that one, and now it's very tricky. He goes for a counter sacrifice. If I take the bishop with my queen, he will take the queen and then take the bishop. I get out of the way. This move surprised him. I don't think he was ready for this move. He can't really take my bishop. It's a little bit dangerous for his king. He goes here, and that gives away a major chunk of his advantage, and I realized why right away. So his bishop is hanging, and mine is no longer hanging, and suddenly he trapped his own bishop right in front of my king. So with 10 seconds on the clock, I find the best move, and he kind of can't believe it. Like, I could tell him getting a little fidgety, and he's like, wait a minute, what? I was just up a piece. I'm gonna lose my piece back. That's a cold shower, which might be nice in Spain because it's really hot, but yeah, you see him hesitating. Now he's under 30 seconds. Now's when you really feel that pressure. So he takes my pawn. The rest of the advantage has been given up. And I just need to take his bishop safely. My king is a little bit weak. I have 3 seconds. I take the bishop. Now I've got 4 seconds remaining. He takes. That's queen g2 his mate. But I defend, and I'm counterattacking him. And he has no checks. So suddenly he's only a pawn up with a very weak king. And this is where blunders can happen. He brings his rook, and he blunders. He blunders a check and the bishop. All I have to do is not get mated. I take his knight, and he has no way to get to my king. Rook to h4 check, bishop takes rook is a discovered check. That's what I think he had missed. And now I just have to run my king to safety, and anytime I move my bishop in front of my queen, it's a check to his king. He can't believe it. He's down to 8 seconds. Right, he's hesitating. Plays queen g4. Queen takes bishop as a check, and I spot it. He can't believe it. Now he takes. I play knight to f5 check. Very important not to lose on time here. This was very nerve-wracking right here. I played rook f1 with 1 second on the clock. I knocked over a piece. That was obviously an accident. I played knight to e3 here, hitting his queen. Another move played with 1 second on the clock. And suddenly, after the skirmish, and he plays a move with 1 second on the clock, I'm just simply up a knight. Now all I have to do is consolidate. I give him a check. This is easy. We make a couple of moves with 1 second on the clock, but I'm simply winning. He plays queen to e5, and he ran out of time. Good sport, by the way. He pointed it out himself. And that was how I managed to win that game. And so, as promised, I will do a deep dive analysis of this very peculiar chess game that I played against Grandmaster Sosa. Now, like I said, this was a pretty wild story because just a couple of days later, I had to play him in a real sanctioned tournament. So I don't know if playing him in a recreational blitz game was to my benefit or not. But I didn't know what to expect, and ultimately I won this game, although I got very lucky. Also, there's a weird bug happening right now on chess.com where the analysis board is only stuck on this color. And this is not the color that I usually record in. I usually use brown board. But let me know in the comments. Maybe we'll do a poll. Do you like green or brown? Maybe the channel needs a big overhaul. I always use the brown board, so I'm going to do the green board for today. I opened with e4. Tomas played the Sicilian. And I played, there's many ways you can play against the Sicilian defense, the most common being knight f3 followed by pawn to d4. I don't play that because I don't know it that well. Instead, I keep it closed and I play like this. And in a nutshell, the idea here is if your opponent does not move the knight, you take the knight. That's what you do. Then you play like pawn to d3, sometimes knight f3, sometimes pawn to f4, sometimes knight f3, and you just rebuild on the light squares. But Tomas played very principled, knight to d4. I play knight f3, trying to get him to take something. He didn't. I castled. And now he decided, well, I can kick out his bishop, but I can also take his bishop with my knight and then kick out his knight. That's what he opted for. Both are fine. a6 is a little bit better. a6 is better because my bishop kind of very quickly realizes it's offside. And then, you can actually just leave. You can actually waste the move here because you kind of just develop normally, and I have a dumb bishop. So, then I might play bishop e2 and try to play d4. And if I don't do that, if I try to play on the queen side or something, black can get a very easy game. Black can get a very, very nice game. But he took my bishop, and then he kicked me out. I went knight back to c3, and he went b5. Now, the most principled move in this position is the move that I played in the game, which is I might as well take, energetically the center and take with the queen because he doesn't have that knight because he just took my bishop. Like, normally, you don't really want to put the queen out here, right? I have eyes over here, I have eyes over here, and I have eyes into the territory, but so far the position is, it kind of is what it is. And he plays bishop b7. Now, if there was one thing I regretted in this game, it was not putting my rook on e1 right away. I think the reason I didn't want to do this is because I thought he puts the rook on the c-file, and then he's going to quickly develop his bishop, develop his knight, he's going to be totally fine. Like, if I just play a bunch of natural moves like this, what's going to happen is he's going to play bishop c5, right? I saw this coming, and I kind of thought, well, if I just develop like a normal person, then I'm not going to get anywhere. He's just going to have a better position. He's going to pressure my center. He's going to be very happy. But I should still start with rook e1. And the point being that then, with the king in the center, ideas like knight to d5 become a lot more powerful. For example, after pawn takes, this is a discovered check on the king. And if he plays something like bishop e7, he just loses. His whole position completely disintegrates. I vaporize it. Now, in the game, I still played a move that the engine liked, which is developing with a tempo. And I was baiting Tomas into moving his pawn, which is not actually a bad move according to the computer, but it's a very, very unnatural placement of the pieces. And I thought, okay, well, I would be happy here. So I played bishop g5. He moved his queen. And again, now I should probably consider bringing the rooks. One idea I have here is playing rook d1. And let's say he just kind of tries to develop some pieces. I can begin deflecting the bishop, the queen with the bishop, because if the queen moves, this is mate. Like, somehow his king just gets completely stranded in the center of the board, which, by the way, is a drawback of the opening that he played. By moving his knight once, twice, and then a third time, you will notice it's gone. His knight is gone. It moved 3 times, and his position made no progress. But mine did. Look at how much progress I made, right, in the opening. Because I developed the knight, then I developed the bishop, then I developed the other knight, then I castled my king. And sure, I had to step back, but then immediately I brought the queen. So by the 9th move of the game, I have both knights out, I've castled, and my queen is out. So look at this lead in development that I've built, right? And that's why my position is very nice. Now, Instead of that, perhaps intimidated by my opponent, perhaps a little bit a little bit antsy. You see sometimes fighters do the same thing in their fights. They get a little antsy. They start kind of throwing punches like they normally wouldn't, taking risks. I played here because for some reason I thought it was better for me to have, I can't really explain myself. And then I went here. Now, this would be genius if the position looked like this. This would be genius. Because this would be check. The bishop would cut off the escape squares, so he would have to block. And then I can take with my bishop. I can probably also sacrifice the rook here, but I would also just do this, and he loses. I would just go here, and the game is over. I mean, the king is absolutely swarmed here. Now, for some reason, I thought this also was fine this way with the incoming threat of rook to e1. But he just went here. And now he has time to put his king on f7. He does not need to block. This actually blocks my queen attack, and I'm already losing. So, you saw during the game how I immediately was like, why did I do that? Like, and during the game, I'm thinking, I'm going to play this man in 2 days. He's going to see how over-aggressive I am, right? He's going to use this to his advantage. But I decided, you know what? Let's just play some moves. So I brought my rook to the center. I left my bishop to die because he can't really take it. If he takes it, his king runs out of escape squares very quickly. The engine only gives one win here, which is h4. I thought even like queen e4 was winning, but actually he takes my knight, and shockingly, I have no more ways to win. But he didn't do any of that anyway. And he just went bishop d6 and knight e7. He got both his pieces out. He connected his rooks. And at this point, again, remember, look at the game. I'm down in a minute and a half, and I have no attack. And his pieces have joined the party. I'm really not having a good time here. But I decided, let's keep fighting. All right? Let's keep fighting. Knight d4. Let's keep fighting. We're going to put the knight here. We're going to bring pieces to the party. But of course, he's going to play rook e8. He brought this rook. And I noticed here I had a little trick. A trick that completely relies on a bluff. Here I played bishop f6. The trick is, if he takes with the pawn, he loses. Because now I get his knight. More importantly, I get his king. Like, he could go rook e7, but then I go here, and suddenly his position is actually very hard to play. I'm threatening all sorts of mates. Very difficult position. He can take with a check, but that's about as much as he's getting. So I played bishop f6. Now, the funny thing is, he can take with a king. What I had missed during the game, other than already playing like a huge idiot, is that in this position, queen f5 is not checkmate because the king can just run away. So bishop f6 looks really good. Not to mention the fact that he doesn't have to take it at all. He can literally move his king like here even. And I have nothing at all. I'm just down a bishop. But for whatever reason, this kind of disturbed him, and he went here, and that's not a bad move. Point is, if we trade queens, he's going to get my bishop and be winning in the endgame, but I went here, and this move really disturbed him. He clearly didn't like something here. Again, he could take with he could take the bishop, he could also move the bishop, but he went here. And suddenly he's in trouble. Suddenly he's in a little trouble. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm threatening his queen, and I'm threatening his bishop, for real. He goes to d6, that's the best move. It's the best move because if I take, he goes here, and my position is actually very poorly coordinated. It looks like I'm surviving, but he plays rook e4, rook h4, and I lose. So he plays like rook h4 check, king g1, queen h5. This is the computer line. This is how he wins the game, by threatening my rook and threatening checkmate. That's not findable from this position in a blitz game. What you see here with black is you're going to lose your bishop, and it goes from bad to worse. In the span of 3 moves, it goes from -5 to minus... Actually, even bishop h2 was fine. Queen f4 makes it -2.8, and this makes it -0.5. And at this point, when he took my pawn, I was like, wait a minute, I can still win this game. His king is weak too. And right away he blundered. He played rook e4. And what he had missed here is he had missed that after here, knight e7 and bishop e7, there is no rook h4 check. What he had thought probably is rook h4 check, and when bishop h4 happens, this is checkmate. And that is a very clever tactic, but when I take his rook, it's a discovered attack on his own king. And I think that's what he had overlooked when he played rook e4. Rook e4, rook h4 looks like lights out for white. It looks like I lose all my pieces. But actually, it is him who is losing his pieces. And I remember sitting during the game going, oh my god, I just need to hide my king. Because anytime I move my bishop, it's an attack on his king. It's crazy. Queen h6 check, bishop h4, and I'm winning. Queen g4, and here, like 2 or 3 times I got down to 1 second because I was like, I can't believe I'm winning this game. I just need to give him a couple checks. I really wanted to give him a check like this and lose my knight, and it's winning, but I was very scared to lose my knight. So I played rook f1, and I realized I'm completely winning. He went rook f4, and I played knight e3, and that's it. I escape, my king is gonna hide, and I'm just up a knight. I almost lost on time, but I gave him a check. I took... And here he was a good sport. He ran out of time, but it's already a losing position. I would play queen c4. I would take his other pawn. And all you have to avoid here with white is a perpetual check. And I managed to win. And this was not deserved, but it was deserved, I suppose, in the perspective of a fighting game. I mean, I could have fell over and died several times in this game when I realized that I played a really bad sacrifice. And he played extremely well, but somehow, you know, I tried to create chaos. And one of the ways to play in these types of positions is creating chaos. When you are losing, you can either sit back and defend stubbornly, or you can create chaos. I tried to create chaos, and ultimately that chaos confused him, and I ultimately got a win. I've got a lot more games from this little bar where I played. I played a murderer's row of titled players there in Spain, and I will continue to upload some of them. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's not every day you get to sit down and all of a sudden you're playing a Grandmaster who you had no idea was there or playing, and that was a very cool moment. And then obviously Tomas and I played in the tournament a couple of days later. So he's got a channel of his own. I would imagine he uploads in Spanish. So shout out to him for the great games while there, and I'm sure we will meet again in the future. And that's all I've got for you today. So get out of here.